Thank you all for returning to Lost Without Japan. This is your host, in Kako Gaido, and coming with you and just hopes and dreams of future things for me. And I'm supposed to have my surgery over spring break, and that ended up not happening. So it's kind of had me scrambling for the show. I'd fully planned on just doing a music episode the more I thought about it after recovery time and things. So hope you'll forgive me that there's not music today, and that my voice sounds pretty much the same as it always does. But I did want to give a chance today to do something I'd been planning for a while, which was to kind of give a more in-depth self interview of myself for my Japan Fulbright Memorial Fund experience, and share that experience with you because that was really huge in a lot of different ways. And as I was kind of in place of getting better, I was spring cleaning, even though my move is 8 or 9 years away at this point in time. I was storing quite a bit to get recycled or away. Anything that I thought you know I was going to use, and I realized still a decent amount of time till then, but I know in some ways it's going to come up faster than I think it will, as just pretty much everything else has to this point. If you're new to the show, welcome. You've got a lot of backlog to work yourself through. Had a listener of the show reach out recently who's going to be a potential interview a little bit later here when we can sync our schedules. A unique experience within Japan we're going to talk about. But he's made it through the whole back catalog and said now he has to wait. So, because of that and so many other things, like I said, I really look forward to sharing my experience in Fulbright with you. There's quite a lot to it, and let's go ahead and get started now. The experience began back in 2006. And this is just to kind of give a reference for a lot of you, is pre iPhone, which was first introduced in June 2007. So no smartphone devices at that point in time. If you wanted to get around, you had to use a lot of different other devices, non electrical. So I had large folding maps. I had of like Tokyo and just Japan as a whole. I had travel guide books and things that I had found. And, the movie Lost in Translation was really new and huge at that point in time in my life, still is now. But I did what I do now, which is a lot of research, in this case, by various books before I went. I printed out so much that I wanted to do, and even had areas on my paper map for Kyoto, which is what I was planning on a potential day trip, which I'll talk about later on. And wanted to have it all with me. So even though it wasn't smartphone and other things, I was still me and did things a lot in the same way. Um, I tried for Fulbright twice before my third attempt and was rejected both times. And, that was a struggle for me to want to do it a third. Glad I did. Glad that, I was motivated by those in my life to continue to do so. Kim, thank you. um, People, friends, family were all like pushing me to go ahead and continue to do this as they knew it was important to me. And I'm glad I did. Because after that third acceptance letter, which I feel I did go into even more, I'm like, if this is going to be my final attempt, I'm really going to go all out. And I kind of think it showed. Only two teachers were accepted from each state for a total of 100 Fulbright people that were going to be sent over. It's a huge honor. Just so lucky to get to go. Uh, we ended up taking off and arriving in San Francisco on November 12th, where we were allowed to basically meet up with everyone this kind of on the trip that we didn't run into on our plane. I had a couple people that were sitting with me that were part of the group. So we were able to kind of catch up and meet ahead of time. And one of the gentlemen that was there was like the first guy that I was going out with afterwards. You kind of meet some friends and 100 people, even though we're all educators, still a decently sized group. So it was nice to have that interaction before we even landed and just have some people to go out with until you got together with your groups. In San Francisco, we were able to attend the Japanese consulate general's residence and meet with him, meet other members. Like I said, people that are going to be a part of the um, event. The weeks that are here, we had people that were going to be leading the group. We had translators, so many different people in that, and I ended up getting to meet my travel group, a group of 20, for when we left Tokyo. And for my group, we were going to be going out to the city of Komaki. And for those of you longtime listeners of the show, know that I did a day trip episode for Komaki and found the mall that I like to hang out with, found some other things for you to do. Definitely worth your time to go listen to. And I feel that with all my episodes, that one was definitely special to me. Uh, on the 13th, after getting to have a very fancy, meet up and greet at the consulate, kind of see San Francisco mainly at night. Um, Not really much else, kind of like an early bed we had to get going. So we had breakfast and we were lucky. I truly felt we were the first group to board on our United trips. There were 20 of us in that group that got to go from San Francisco there. Like I said, I met some people previously that just happened to be connecting through Chicago, from other locations and things. But this is the first time we're actually able to sit together with our groups. I got to get to know each other a little bit further. And it made the trip of flying from California instead of Chicago, let me tell you, was already better to begin with. That cut off a good chunk of time, making it a little over 10 hours for our flight. Um, and then having people that were as stoked to go to Japan as you to talk to also did. We're able to, it was a different, different time historically at that point in time. We were able to stand in different areas of the plane. And can't do that really now. I know you can stand as you're waiting to the restroom, but eventually they're going to ask you to sit down. But at that point in time, you're able to kind of stand, group talk, kind of get a little bit more of a movement around the plane. I mean, you're not able to do laps, but you're able to stand up in some different areas and just had a little more freedom with that, which definitely helps because trying to remember back, like I don't believe I had like if I had an aisle or not. That whole experience, that first flight, um, just was so excited to be there. Kind of a blur, some of the things that it had. But I was able to borrow, also guest the show, my father's noise canceling Bose headphones at the time, and spent the bulk of my flight looking at my travel guides, uh, really trying to sleep and failing most of the time. And just mainly, most of my flight was spent talking to other people who were as excited as I was. We ended up arriving in Narita on the 14th of November around 3:35 p.m. And although I love not traveling with a travel group, would be my just preference. It was a wonderful first experience, and I can see why someone would choose to go that route. And if someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, this was my first experience," I'm like, "Good for you." It makes that return trip when you go again by yourself even better. You've had someone kind of show you the ropes the first time. And with the first iPhone, first smartphone really not being out yet, this was all pre Google Maps, and just kind of like search engines in general. So I was fortunate that we got to get a chartered bus ride from our hotel to our hotel in Tokyo. And coming out of the plane, I remember in the airport itself. They had all these large buses for us, and my first experience with a Japanese vending machine is all of us are trying to geek up. They're trying to not let the group of 100 or 20 of us, like, head in different areas and out. We waited for another group to land once we got there. And I want to say we had about 40 of us in this group, and they're trying to make sure that they don't lose any of us. So they're trying to keep us together. So I wasn't able to like really walk around the Narita airport and explore. They pretty much kept us together and then chauffeured us to our bus. The one thing I was able to do was a my first experience with a Japanese vending machine, and I was happy to have listened to my father, at that time, and just thought of myself of like getting money ahead of time. It's cash based. Japan is now. It's getting even more electronic, and especially if you residing there, living there, there's so much more options than there were back when I went. It was really just cash based. So the money you had with you is the money you had, and I did not have an ATM card that was like I do now, where I could have just pulled some additional funds and things out. I do remember, just being happy to have that. Not everyone had that. So I was able to use the vending machine, and I had a water was my like first vending machine experience. They had a just a metal can screw top. I have a picture of myself with that. Still in all my different things that I have. But let me tell you, everyone was taking, wanted to get pictures of it because I kind of went a little bit off from our group. Wasn't able to get far, but I was able to get to this vending machine, and it was funny. Like I had my sealed bottle of water, which now is not too nothing special, but at the time it was for a lot of us. So my Japanese sized Asahi water um, was sent up and down our bus and handled by like everybody. Not in a very adventurous first choice. I think, definitely more adventurous now, but it was safe and made some people's days. They photographed it. I eventually made its way back to me. I drank it. Um, Quite the first memory. I remember looking at cars, how small they were, the license plates, just getting some first things in after just jet lag would already hit. We ended up getting put up at a very nice hotel. It was the Kyo Plaza Hotel in Shinjuku, which was and is one of the nicer hotels in Tokyo, with rooms around 300 a night. We arrived around 8:10 and were placed within groups of five. That was 8:10 at night. A volunteer who spoke English took us out to dinner. Basically, it wasn't our groups of people we were with. We were just split off into different groups, not our Kamaki group, not necessarily the people I was with. And they split our 100 into groups of five. And anyone that wanted to go out to dinner was basically given someone who volunteered and spoke English their first introduction to Tokyo. Now, I got to say, we were all exhausted, but there's no way I was going to pass it up or anyone in my group chose to pass this up. Um, so we followed our guide out into the city. Little did we know that our guide enjoyed trying to embarrass visitors to Japan. This has never been my experience at any other time, um, and not anything that I've heard from others. But he wanted to have like a good time with us and show us some areas and see which reaction that he could get from these visitors to Japan. And we were, prior to going out to eat, told repeatedly. We were told in San Francisco. We were told when we arrived. And again, all these different writing things. We're told to stay out of the red light areas. That we would get into trouble if we did these, and were seen even in these areas. Because we were told of the yakuza and just criminal activity and just all these different things, and that if we were found in these areas, that we could end up being responsible for paying part of our trip back, and then sent home. Now, this is a large amount of money. This is again back in 2006, and each of the 100 people was over $30,000 a person. It cost the Japanese government per person to have us be there and show us around. And this was done to give thanks to the U.S. Just for past things. This program has since, you know, unfortunately, has since stopped happening. I'll hope that at some point in time that it's able to get back up again. Um, man, I would love for the U.S. and Japan to almost split this cost, have it go both ways. It's truly was just an amazing experience. But like I said, he wanted to embarrass us. We were taken to these red light areas and showed around. Um, and basically, we had no idea where we were going or where we were being led to at that point in time. Again, no Google Maps, no anything. But he ended up taking us into one of the most famous red light areas in all of Japan, Kabukicho. And this is for my first meal, official meal in Japan, not the water, but Japan pork cutlets. And luckily, most of the teachers on our trip had thick skin and didn't have really much or really any of a reaction as we walked through the area to the restaurant. I didn't really feel that he took like the roundabout way to get where we were going. And I genuinely believe he would have led us around longer if we would have been embarrassed. But all of us were kind of like, okay, man, like, whatever. Um, we got to the restaurant, and I was truly fighting to stay awake at that point in time. And the meal that I had was one of my favorite meals ever in Japan. And I truly wish I had grabbed a business card when I left the restaurant, was at the restaurant. Um, Although, with how often things change around, I'm pretty sure it's not open now. Even though the guy tried to embarrass us to begin with, we had a blast, and we all got together afterwards and talked about that whole experience. Like, what just happened? And we returned to pass out in our hotel rooms and ran into a few other groups by uh, yeah, they have these payphones, and they're intonation payphones, and we found out we had when we were talking, like wanting to call our family at that point in time, and friends, and let them know, hey, we made it to Japan safe and sound. We had to buy prepaid phone cards at that point in time that were not cheap. They were expensive, but that's all you had. So you had to, take these phone cards and, go to these phones, wait in line to be able to let people out. So of course, all of us, it's kind of like being around a water cooler, all talking about our experiences, and no one else ended up anywhere near Kabuki Joe. So the following morning, we met with our on 11:15. We met with our smaller groups and learned a little bit about the areas we'd be heading to after we returned to Tokyo. So after that, we went to Japan's Parliament building, the National Japanese Diet building, and we saw their government in action. I remember they had a protest going on at that point in time. I don't know what it was about, but there were buses and things set up and people in, riot gear there. Luckily, it was just a peaceful thing, just people sitting with signs and things like that. But it was kind of a different experience to say the least. Once we returned, we were able to see two different back to our hotels. We were able to see two different performers perform kyogen, a traditional comedic theater, and a kabuki, a traditional dance theater. And Mark Oshima was our performer for kabuki, and it was only later I found out that he was a researcher, performer, and author, all about kabuki. If you don't know, Japanese kabuki can end up being a bit boring. Even if you do focus on these like fantastic performances and dances you end up seeing. So it was perfect because the reason it can be a bit boring is it's completely in Japanese. And if you don't know any Japanese, um, like you're going to lose a lot of what is going on. But luckily, he was able to speak to us in English, kind of explain what was going on. We had shorter performances. and just really be able to lay out and tell us in English what his dances represented and what was happening. Dinner was on our own, but I was struggling from the flight and did not do much exploring once we were left free at 6 p.m. I ended up using one of the maps they gave us for our Fulbright group. So again, no digital devices, no Google Maps. So what they ended up giving us was from our Keo Plaza hotel. They gave us maps of different areas. They're paper maps, and they were there. I have one for Shinjuku. Another that we had going on that was like restaurant map guide for people in the area. It showed you where the hotel was. It gave different landmarks to look at, some different things potentially to go to. And they were color printed map. And then they had black and white maps of restaurants that were in the area. And they were like uh, McDonald's as a recommendation, Sizzlers, Denny's, Subway, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Royal Host, which is like a family restaurant. So very like American-esque type things. Um, Things that would be easy, like on a pallet, or things people would be used for, but nothing adventurous at all. But they did then give us some convenience stores, AMPMs, Lawson's, Family Marts, Suncoast, 7-Elevens, mini stops. And we were given our interpreter that we were with. My group's interpreter was Meg, and we were given her cell phone to get a hold of, basically, if we were to get in trouble or have anything happen to us while we're out. So, like police, or we could call from a payphone, because again, at that point in time, payphones everywhere to get a hold if we needed help. Luckily, I didn't. I used that map, found one of the McDonald's that was nearby to us, because it was, safe nearby about the energy that I had. So I had that McDonald's meal, headed back to the hotel and passed out. And I remember when I was ordering my meal, it's something I know I've talked about a bit in the past, but I remember going up and pointing, like, to the menu, like, Big Mac, Big Macu, and them giving me the sandwich. And me going back, I'm pointing to the picture of the sandwich and the fries and the drink. And they gave me like the fries. And then I walked back up again and they gave me like, the small soft drink. And it was only as I was sitting there, listening to other people going up to see that they did the seto, and figuring it out that, hey, if I wanted to do this, I can actually say that. And something that I did later on, was able to get everything all at once, which was amazing. Again, it's just not a lot of there's no YouTube, different things you could watch for different interactions. So it's pretty lucky. The following day was 11/16 and was filled with heads of boards of education, and we learned about the Japanese school system, Japanese government, and the economy. And this was like an all-day event. The cool thing about this was that we were able to do what you would normally see, like for government functions and things, where they give you the white cover for your ear, this little, thing that fits over, and a translator would speak into this headphone type thing that you're wearing and translate what was being said in Japanese to English. And that night we had a reception dinner to celebrate the 10th anniversary of JFMF that ran till 8:30. I ended up running out to a local convenience store for the first time with some of the people I made friends with at this. And we began a game that we'd run pretty much the entire trip, which was pick something to drink and eat from the convenience store. And since none of us really spoke any Japanese, we had no translation devices. It was indeed hit or miss. So we ended up finding, like one of the things ended up finding, like some favorites of ours and sharing, were the green tea Kit Kats, which were in season at that point in time. The green tea Kit Kats were everyone's favorite, became an item that we began to share with everyone we could on our trip. Like we became, mascots for them, fans of them. I'm like, you need to try this. And it ended up, like, funny enough, like, ended up resulting in every convenience store in a very large vicinity from around our hotel being emptied out of these green tea Kit Kats. And I'd like to think, like this resulted in someone in sales from Kit Kat Tokyo or Kit Kat Japan, like scratching their heads as to like why were they sold out so quickly, of all the green tea Kit Kats in this specific area of Tokyo, and most likely for the first time. I mean, we did this within days. So other people, in other groups like them, they began going out for them. It was just hilarious, hilarious. Now, for 11:17 through 11:19, this continued for the next few days. So we'd get various topics from Japan, including women's status in Japan, special education, so much more related to how each subject was taught in Japan. And this ended up leading to our departure from Tokyo Station. And that was my first experience with a Shinkansen or bullet train. And I was aboard the Kadoma 569. And we were taken to our host prefecture of Aichi, and I got to stay at my first business hotel, which has since, when I looked to do the research for the show, has closed. On 11:20 that following day, we ended up getting, around students again, which was fantastic. Did a lot of us kind of recharge some batteries for us. We were at Aichi Educational University, and it was much needed by that time. And we were able to meet the mayor of Komaki and the local city board of education. And I was asked to represent our group of 20 and give a speech, which I thought would be like this small group, like meeting with him and maybe a couple other people. And everyone was like, "Oh, Mike can do this. Mike can do this." So I got nominated to do it. But this entire floor of this like government building was filled with reporters and members of the community and the local government. I mean, us being there was like, a rock star being there. It was crazy. Luckily, it went really well. But the one thing that happened was I had written a speech, and we were taking like the night before. I had written one, and I was ready to go, but I just had this like feeling when I began talking that I had a speech, prepared, but I had one that was like, this came to me and was more speaking to the heart, and I had the written speech to go, back to, but with everyone there and just like this kind of overwhelming thing, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to speak from my heart. And I wrote about how the night before, when we were on board the Shinkansen, I told them about a couple that ended up running into and told where we were going. And once I said Komaki, they informed me that they had actually, funny enough, they didn't stop in Komaki with us, but they used to live there and talked about how much they loved it despite living in Tokyo now due to work, but that they would happily return back to the city once they retired. It was so well received and like moving. You could tell everyone was like, it wasn't just me feeling things, seeing things, but like people were shocked at like the quality of like what was said. Um, I don't know what they were expecting. I don't think they had high expectations, what they would have had. But after that, every reporter swarmed me that was there and asked for a copy of my speech and said they would run in an article about our visit later in a local newspaper. And I gave them copies of my speech, but I let them know, hey, this isn't what I said. And of course, at that point in time, they're like, it doesn't matter. like, uh, the people that were in the government liked the speech. They wanted to see this thing, like put out there. So we need to have your speech, and it doesn't matter. Uh, you know, um, and I asked for a copy. I gave like my information and things. Unfortunately, did not receive one. Um, and I couldn't find anything online later on. I'm like, it'd be like finding like I'd have to find like microfiche, of that time that I was there and somebody that knows Japanese better than I to go through those newspapers literally page by page to try to find that. I still would like to do that. Maybe that's going to be something someday when I'm living in Japan, go there and pay somebody, uh, and, to go through these things with me for around this time. Have the dates. The next day, on the 21st, we ended up in Komaki City. Hika, like, let me give an opportunity for this. Here's a Hikari Gakko Elementary School. We truly, this time, truly felt like rock stars. We were getting to interact with elementary students again, and the entire school put on this huge assembly for us that filled this entire like gymnasium area with an entire grade level performing a dance for us. And we were divided among the teachers to observe classrooms. We were put up on like put up on like we were up and out of the way, and we are kind of like just on a stage of chairs, and it was just us, and everyone else is out in front of us, and they're doing all these performings and doing different things, and it was just amazing. I had still have like some brief videos and things at that time, and the first thing that happened was everyone was kind of standing, that everyone just all at once you heard all of these feet just stomp down as they went into a pose to start this dance, and there were me and other people around me that you just hear this video recording, like, wow, wow. So after that, we were divided among some teachers to observe classrooms. We saw students serving their lunches. We saw them clean at the end of the day. We saw them clean, the classrooms, bathrooms, school grounds. And they told us that getting picked to clean the bathrooms was actually a huge honor for the students. There was that just like that, in and of itself, this spoke to some differences, between the two, school systems. Um, there was also one of the things that I spoke about in my Komaki day trip episode. I ended up finding a three-floor mall near our hotel with a couple other people from my group, and it's still there today. And we began a routine of just going to this food court, getting ice cream filled crepes, and then taking them to the top floor up these escalators and sitting in super high tech massage chairs after doing so. And this was one of those things at the time was like, man, all of us were like, I wish I could take this for me, back. And when I went back, to the um, to this like place, and I was looking around, things have changed. Of course, the crepe place is no longer there. The massage chairs aren't there, but I definitely, anytime back, like when I go back to Kamaki again, it's going to be something that I'll hit upon those places, just kind of like follow, some past footsteps of mine. Um, on the 22nd, this is one of my favorite activities from the trip was Komaki City Toro Junior High School. Um, we watched students perform taiko drums and then got to join them ourselves. Um, Over the next 5 days, we continued visiting other schools, making our own jewelry, watching robot battles, and realizing the students smile the same all over the world. We also continued our Combini snack run, but chose to take advantage of the beer vending machines on each floor of our business hotel that we were staying at. The 20 of us alone cleared out the beer vending machine on our floor, and since we were there for a while, ended up to proceed to clear out the beer of every floor of the hotel before we left. So the green tea was, not the only, ones that we were taking, we were doing. So after that, we finally got to meet our host families, and the Takasu family took me in. And we had a lot of fun getting to know each other despite my lack of Japanese and their lack of English. I got to play catch with their son and daughter. We played cards, and we ended up going out to play catch till it was really too dark to see the ball. Luckily, I was able to not hit them and throw it to them. It's more about their catching than it was about my throwing. The following day, they took me to a museum, Meiji Mura, which has buildings from the Meiji era that you can walk through. This is even a building there by the famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright, and the steam train that made for an unforgettable experience. While we were there, I was, missing some food that I'd have back at home at that point in time. So I had one of my favorite meals, which was eat very small chicken wings. And the place that I went to, this Meiji Mura museum, I do have in my day trip, and it's still there, and those chicken are still there. But I think it might be smaller than 8 serving now, but I'd still go get it. So on the 27th, we ended up saying goodbye to our host family. met up with my group again, and we took off to visit the Ryokan to celebrate a belated Thanksgiving. And this was a blast because everyone got past being uncomfortable coming down with a yukata only, and just like your undergarments. So we had one of the most elaborate meals I've ever had. Like everyone again, kind of nervous to begin with because you're basically just coming down in your this thin bathrobe. We had so many different courses. We had sushi, different types of fish. I traded my sushi to others for more rice and enjoyed my beef dish once it was cooked. So I made friends that way. During that time, they let us have alcohol. So we asked our guide who came with us at that time what was the limit for our drinks. Since after we ate, we were all going to be doing karaoke or karaoke. We were told not to worry, as no one had ever reached the amount in the previous 10 years, but that she would let us know if we got close. Now, this is probably the wrong thing to say to a group of teachers because we took this as a challenge. And finally, after a lot of singing, we told ourselves that we wanted to continue drinking, like as long as we could until we could hit this limit, which we did. And which Meg came back up to us and said, "Hey, uh, if you want to do any more drinking tonight, you're going to have to pay for it yourselves." I remember all of us letting out a cheer, and then we just all called it a night because we were all in a rough shape already. After this, we returned to Tokyo and were allowed to go out to Japan on our own. Now, unfortunately, we had come into this thinking that we'd have a few days and nights to go off and explore Japan. But someone in the previous year's group, it was literally um, right before, not previous year, but like that previous group that went that year, had decided that what they would do on when having multiple nights and multiple days free was not explore Japan, but instead leave Japan completely and go explore China and the Great Wall. And guess what? They ended up not making it back on time. So they almost canceled us being able to go out on our own. I mean, you imagine someone paying more than $30,000 for you to be a guest of a country and for the whole experience to be you're the whole reason you were picked is that you're going to be able to share what happened to you back with your own schools and communities once you return. And so you choose to go to China. So they almost canceled on us being able to go out at all. But they ended up deciding to give us 2 nights to get out. So I was still able to do this, but it just still to this day is just I'm like, I can't believe it. So we decided, a few of us, that we wanted to go to Kyoto in a small group, and I was super excited about this because I wanted to visit some of the places Scarlett Johansson's character Charlotte visited and Lost in Translation. And even back then, I had purchased a map, like I had said. Marked all the places that I wanted to go that were from Lost in Translation. I did some research, asked those, and again, they were from like the travel books that they actually said in the travel book. This is where parts of the movie were filmed, and we arrived in Kyoto at night. And I must say, sorry, one moment. We arrived in Kyoto at night, and I must say, I was underwhelmed, as downtown Kyoto did not have really much to write about at that time. It was very like man, concrete buildings. They all looked the same. And it didn't give any hints to the city's true beauty. It was late. You really couldn't see anything out of it. I really began to think I made a huge mistake. But quickly was relieved the following day when we walked out of the city and it was replaced by nature and beautiful sights. And I became popular with the group because of the map and the prep work. So quite a few people followed me to Kiyomizu-dera, and it was gorgeous because a lot of people that went didn't really have a plan of what they were going to do in Kyoto. They were just like, "I'm going to go," and kind of walk around. So I had this. It was amazing because it was fall. The leaves had just changed, and everyone was taking pictures, as many pictures as possible. It was during this time that another guy on the trip came up to me and asked to see the map. Now, this wasn't my group that I was going with, but another person, from our trip. And he said, "Hey man, can I, check out your map?" And I'll be honest, I got a kind of a weird vibe from him. So I said something which was kind of out of character, and I was like, "Yeah, you can look at it, um, but make sure to give it back, to me when you're done." And what ended up happening was he ended up walking off with my map, and the couple of people he was with, and became a guide for them using my map. And I'm like, ah, to this day, I'm like, can't believe. I mean, I can believe people do it, but I just can't believe it, especially to another teacher, to another person of this group. And this resulted in the couple of people that came with me walking around, trying to find out things to do. And I ended up not being able to go to the temple that Charlotte visited on that trip. I have since numerous times since, but we still had a good time. We found the streets leading from the temple, which were filled with pottery shops at the time. And I regretted, lending my map out, period. But one of the things that, besides that, lending the map that I regretted was not getting a piece of pottery from that area because there was, piece like one cup was around $80, if not hundreds, depending on the quality and style. Um, I wish I would have purchased that because that's something I could have put into my cabinet and hold again to this day. Because they've only gone up in price, and like there's not as many. When I went back with Sam this last visit, there was not nearly the same amount of pottery shops that had been there when I was back there. So, uh, lesson learned though. I ended up running back into the guy at Kyoto Station, and I didn't even get so much as an apology from him, and he looked shocked when I said, "Hey, I want my map back." And he looked at me like he's like, "But I wrote notes on it." And I'm like, "Good for you." He's like, "I wrote notes on it for when I return again." I'm like, "Good for you, but it's my map. I purchased it. There were notes on there already, man." So I told him, you know, I I wanted him to return it to me. And I got it back. And I told him, I said, "Hey man, like you acting like a child ended up impacting my group's trip. But it did not ruin all my time. And like I said, being able to see Kyoto in fall is still one of my favorite memories, and it's something I would recommend to like anybody. After that, we returned to Tokyo again. We only had 2 nights and like basically a day to do so. Um, and I would still remember though, like navigating to and from. We were nervous. Like you had your tickets already for the Shinkansens to, go and to come to leave, but like you're still trying to figure out platforms and things. But when we got back to Tokyo, we were able to listen to one of my the events that spoke out to me the most. Something I've spoken about in the show in the past. Um, and that was actually listening to a survivor of the bombing of Hiroshima and his story about him and his wife and his kids. Young babies at the time. And I still have this video on VHS. We're given this you know like I wish like in some ways you know that I could have had like a better I wish it was like closer to now or whatever it was, so I could have like a digital copy or some sort of physical things. I recorded some of the audio on my own too, even back then. But from the camera I had, but really the video for that portion of things was unwatchable. But the 10 minutes of audio that I had from the video was clear, and it's something I do need to share someday. It was and is like a compelling experience to hear him talk, and I was just amazed that he said he had no hate for what happened, and instead just wanted to make sure it never happened again. And I'm just the story of him and his kids, and the fact that his house was spared a bit. No one was spared, but like spared complete destruction because it was actually up against a prison that was in Tokyo. So just just still to this day, I hoped to have seen him like when I went back on my own. back in 2017. They had like an actual um, event going on because it was an anniversary again, for it. And they had a bunch of survivors that were still there and their families. And, unfortunately, he was not there at that point in time. I wish that I could have told him how meaningful it was and how much it meant to me. But, part of what made me realize how amazing the people that live within Japan and Hiroshima as a whole are, and kind of made me fall in love with Hiroshima. Returning to Tokyo, we had a few more days to explore. And we ended up going to, as a group, going off to one of the spots in Lost in Translation. We found our way to the New York bar at the Tokyo Park Hyatt. Such a great experience, and it provided a chance to see a wonderful view of Tokyo at night and share one last night with the friends that I'd made on that trip. And one of my favorite things I did earlier in the day before heading out to the bar was going to a mall, trying to find cool things to bring back home. As I missed my family at that point in time, and it was really great. Just one of the things I still love about Japan is walking around malls and seeing families interacting and being families, because it makes you feel a little closer to home, at least for me. It's one of my favorite things to do now and something I look to if I start feeling a little bit down. Well, there and music isn't working. I turn to going to the malls and seeing families there. I remember like even us making it up to that bar was kind of we were lucky because again, no one really speaks Japanese, but we were able to make our way up. And anyone that has been to Tokyo Park Hyatt knows in the past, before this remodel, at least, it was not an easy way up to figure out how to get there. Um, and I was able to do some research ahead of time, again from books and things like that. But like remembering what was in your book versus looking down at your phone, two different things. Um, so since we've cleared out green tea Kit Kats from the area and they had not been restocked yet, we couldn't find them, and we were like getting ready close to leave after this stretch of time in Tokyo again. And so we ended up in Narita. And one of the things, like, you're waiting at your gate, just waiting to leave, wanting to stretch my legs, walk as much as I can. And I ended up finding the green tea Kit Kats. And I brought them back to my gate, excited, showed the group that I was with, the couple of people I was closest to, them. And then other people around them were like, "Are those the green tea Kit Kats?" And people are like, "What are the green tea Kit Kats?" They're like, "They're amazing." And I got to tell you, man, it had like I don't know how many people that were a part of that group at that point in time, just disappeared. It was like poof. Everyone went off in different directions and everyone came back with bags of Kit Kats. And I like to think that we not only cleared out Tokyo and part of Kyoto, but also Narita for at least the that section that we were in of Kit Kats, further befuddling some sort of Tokyo based salesperson for these green tea Kit Kats. But we had those and returned home, and that helped make the flight all that much better of an experience. And it's still something that my son enjoys today, and even my, Addison, my daughter, something that she loves. And I truly could not be more thankful to Japan for this experience. And I'd like to think with this podcast and what I've done just as a teacher and my interaction with my kids, I have kids that reach out to me that I've had in the past that aren't kids anymore, but have said that they are actually going to Japan and looking to do. Some of them are looking to do computer programming. Others are looking to do different jobs. But they were going to Japan because of that experience they had with me in class, me sharing about Fulbright. So I'd like to think that Japan got its money worth for sure for me. And I'm going to continue to share this podcast even at times when I'm struggling to do so, with everything that's kind of happened. It's still very important to me to share with you about Japan, and I'll continue to do so until I feel that I can't offer what I want to offer. But I'm hoping that that is something that continues to last till I get to Japan, and you know, something I can continue to do once I'm there, because it will definitely be a different show. It's just something I feel very fortunate about, and I really, really am thankful for people that push me to do so. And hey, look at this. We're right around that 50-minute of me talking frame. So you get your money today, for this talk and this interview. I've reached out to some various people because, for interviews. So I will let you, you'll know how successful that is, when you see them pop back up. So thank you for everyone. If you've only joined recently or you've been with us for this more than 100 episodes time, more than 3 years of time, we're going to be beginning that, fourth year time coming up here soon. I just want to say thank you to you all. So without, ado, see you again in 2 weeks. And to everyone out there, oh, Ginky Day. Stay well, my friends.
Welcome to Lost Without Japan, a travel podcast about the life-changing experiences of exploring Japan and those moments we would be lost without. For your listening pleasure, allow me to introduce your very own Kanko Gaido, Michael.